morning and welcome to All Faiths Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name's Helen Dixon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our service this morning. Here at All Faiths, we are a diverse and inclusive spiritual community where we welcome people with many beliefs. You can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and expansive heart. We have more than one way of experiencing the world and understanding the sacred. No matter who you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, no matter whom you love, you're truly welcome here. Is there anyone visiting for the first or second time? If so, please raise your hand. Welcome. Wonderful. After the service, please see our membership co-chair, Carol Latino, at the Welcome Center behind the folding doors. And if you have more questions about All Faiths, visit our website, allfaithsuu.org. Now, please silence your cell devices. All of them. Okay. Please stop by the bulletin board. There are many things to sign up for this month. Additional events are on page 2 of your order of service.
And my music courses, which is filling up for July 19th and July 26th. At this time, please rise and body your spirit as we sing, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
I'd like to invite my good friend, Ruth King Photobot, forward to light our chalice. Ruth has been a UU for over 20 years and a member of All Faiths for about 2 years. Let's recite the words in your order of service. Let this purest flames kindle in each of our hearts a pledge to justice, a commitment to freedom, and a reverent awe for the crystalline glories that sparkle along our footpaths. Ours is a spiritual community where we find and value our connections. You are invited to recall the names of persons or places you are holding in your hearts, either as a source of concern or cause for celebration. As you feel moved, please line up on this aisle and come forward and share briefly and kindle a flame.
Vanessa.
Hello, everyone.
The button at the top.
Button at the top.
Top. Oh.
That's the bottom.
There.
Thank you for reminding me what's the bottom and what's the top. Hi, everyone. I wasn't around for this, and I wanted to do this before the end of the month, but June 5th was my birthday.
Well, you know what it has to be.
Well, it's belated. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy to be 56 years old.
And beautiful. Who else has a joy?
Such a baby.
On June 10th, y'all.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy
Anyway.
birthday for Michelle. Do you want to do something more?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I know, I'm not looking for it. Anyway, I just wanted to say I've been really feeling crappy
Oh, I'm sorry.
and down and, no, just this friggin' world. Anyway, it has me real sick. I lost weight, as you can probably see. So anyway, but on a good note, last night, my husband and I booked a trip, May 5th, to South Africa on a safari.
May 5th.
Gate 1. Thank you, all you Gate 1 travelers.
Excellent. Vacations are always wonderful. And so are birthdays. Anyone else? Okay, well, that's good. We are a lively bunch this morning.
These names and places have been heard and honored together in this community. Alongside these, we know are certain joys, sorrows, and gratitudes that remain private and unspoken. Those, too, have a rightful place here. We light this vinyl lamp for all of you and for those at home who carry joy, sorrows, and gratitudes.
You want to say
By all means.
Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
These kindled lamps remind us that we are kindred souls, never alone in the human condition, and that there is a love that cares for all. May every good and perfect gift be yours. Amen and Ashe. In the unity of spirit and the sanctity of this gathering, let us quiet ourselves as we settle into a brief meditative moment, a time when we can each listen to that small, still voice within and prepare our hearts and minds for today's service.
Please rise and bow your spirit as we sing Spirit of Life, number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit
Good morning, all faiths. Well, today was a little clumsy. I think I was up there the other day, not long ago, and knocked over all the plants and the water was everywhere. This time I knocked over just a glass. I don't know what that all means, but I'll be mindful. Okay, well, I'm going to share opening words. It's called Motherless Child, and these are the words of Amy Bowden Freeman, where she added in a verse or two from the actual song, Motherless Child. And I said to myself, I should sing that. Maybe I should call us to sing it. Maybe we could just play the melody and we all can just do it. But then I said, forget it, just read. You don't want me to try and sing it. Ooh, it is African-American spiritual too. You can't play around with them. Either you can sing them or you need to. So sometimes I feel like a motherless child. But here may you find a warm greeting, a kind word, and a gentle touch. And sometimes I feel like I have no friend. But here may you find a community of support, a pulse of liberation, and a vision of hope. Yet sometimes I feel I am almost gone. But here, may you find a song to sing, a moment of silence, and a hand to hold. Even when you are a long, long way from home, may these walls give you shelter. May this community break through your loneliness, and may you feel the embrace of a larger spirit of life and love. Come now, let us worship together.
Please rise in spirit, embody your spirit as we sing our gathering prelude, This Land is Your Land, and the words are on the back of your order of service. This land is your land.
Amen, amen to that.
Today's reading is an excerpt from Fear by Leslie Alexander and Michelle Alexander in the 1619 project edited by Nicole Hannah Joe. There's never been a time in the United States history when black rebellion did not spark existential fear among white people, often leading to violent response. even when resistance was peaceful or purely symbolic, such as a black fist raised during the medal ceremony in the 1968 Olympics, or a knee taken on the football field during the national anthem nearly 50 years later. Any sign of rebellion has frequently resulted in threats or acts of violence perpetrated by white vigilantes, militia groups, and the police, often culminating in the creation or strengthening of systems of racial and social control. The reflexive impulse to respond to black people with severe punitiveness is traceable to the 18th and 19th centuries, when white people desperately sought to control a large, unfree population who refused to submit to their enslavement. The deep-seated, gnawing terror that black people might one day rise up and demand for themselves the same freedoms and inalienable rights that led white colonists to declare the American Revolution has shaped our nation's politics, culture, and system ever since. The specific forms of repression and control may have changed over time, but the underlying pattern established during slavery has remained the same. Modern-day policing, surveillance, and mass criminalization, as well as white vigilante violence, know your place, aggression, have histories rooted in white fear, not merely of black crime or black people, but of black liberation. Nothing has proved more threatening to our democracy or more devastating to black communities than white fear of black freedom dreams.
Thank you, Helen.
So that was heavy, but history is history. And what we don't want to do is pretend it is not. Because that doesn't make it real. That just makes you delusional. That's all it does. So anybody that's telling you anything else, they're delusional, don't pay them attention. That's the only way you can deal with it. This is the truth. Thank you, Helen. Thank you very much. All right, so that's my little speech. I get off of that. What we're going to do, today we have a body prayer as our hymn. So what I'm going to first do is demonstrate it, and we have some others who are going to be assisting us, so why don't you all get in your places? Yes, dear. Okay, all right. So, and
Ready? Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep us circle.
okay, so that is the whole song. That's also the body prayer. So now I invite you, if you feel so desired, and if you're able and willing, to please rise. And if you would like to fully participate, you want to move into the aisle so you don't hit your neighbor. But if you want to sit right in your seat and kind of do it, you can do it that way also, or just watch us. But that's what we're going to do right now. So I think it would be encouraging if as many of us as possible can participate. And remember, we're circling around for freedom, for liberation, for our children, that our circle of love and trust will be whole. So let us stand and give it a shot. We can do it. I know you can.
If you get a little lost, there's 5 circles in there, and we're circle with a circle.
Don't let Carlos confuse you with numbers. Carlos does STEM, so he's a number guy. But remember, if you watch us, just follow along, and you don't have to be perfect. No worries. Just try. That's all. We're going to do it 2 times. Okay? Here we go.
Around the freedom, circle around for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for peace, circle for land, circle for each soul. For the children of our children, keep us circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for peace, circle for the land, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep us circle.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You did wonderful. I wish you were able to see what I would see as you were all doing it. You should see your faces, especially when you held the children. Oh, there were mamas and papas just so rocking, and you look marvelous. And isn't that what it's all about? We're here, and we leave generations behind us. If we let things fall apart, it's our watch. So again, circle around for that freedom. Circle for our planet. Circle for peace. Circle for our babies. And keep the circle whole. We can always find room for you and our circle. Okay, well, we have a little surprise today. One of the things is that our order of service has a little typo, because we do not have a message by Alberita Johnson, yours truly. Instead, we have 2 reflections, mostly from Susan Snow and Lewis Robinson. Won't you come forward now?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. So summer, most of you know by now that I was asked to head up the racial equity team. And I don't see Frank or Nicole here, but I just want to give a quick thank you. Frank Geltner and Nicole Racine headed up that team of ours for quite some time and were very dedicated. And they asked if they could pass the torch on to me. So I reluctantly accepted, mainly because of my feeling of inadequacy. But the fact that I've long wished to belong to a beloved community, and I recognize that action is its lifeblood, I agreed. I began my commitment not only with Frank and Nicole's help, but also with that of Dr. Lewis Robinson, who has graciously accepted my request to be mentor and co-chair of our, and of course, the help of our dear Minister Albee. Some muse inside my head inspired me to research the history of the largely black district of downtown Fort Myers called Dunbar. Writing poetry is one of my favorite hobbies, so my muse is often helpful. In this case, I rely on those whose talents serve me being far more articulate and eloquent than I could ever hope to be. I'd like to share with you some of the history of Fort Myers that I've come to know and add to it some of the wisdom from the poets. Dunbar is truly rich in history, but sadly, not always rich in humanity. In doing my research, the voice in my head began saying, man's inhumanity to man. That well-used phrase has as its genesis a line from a stanza of the poem called Man Was Made to Mourn by Robert Burns, the Scottish poet, and it was written in the 18th century. And here it is. It says, many and sharp, the numerous ills interwoven with our frame. More pointed still, we make ourselves regret, remorse, and shame. And man, whose heaven-erected face the smiles of love adorn, man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn. Goosebumps. In truth, the mourning as of this century far exceeds the millions. Dunbar's boundaries are roughly defined by Edison Avenue, Veronica Shoemaker Boulevard, and Martin Luther King Boulevard. The district has long struggled with issues such as distressed housing, crime, discrimination, segregation, poverty, violence, and unemployment. The first black citizen was a man named Nelson Tillis, and he arrived in Fort Myers on Christmas Day in 1867. His origins are somewhat blurry in the archives, as possibly having come from South America, North Carolina, or even Bradenton. He settled on 100 acres across from the Caloosahatchee River as the first black pioneer. He worked as a farmer, fisherman, and fishing guide, even known years later to have taken Thomas Edison fishing from time to time. He married a white woman, and they had 11 children. His children are reported to have played with Edison's children in Edison's yard. Tillis also founded a school and a church, and it was recorded that 2 of his children could pass. You might be familiar with that term, which means that they could pass as white. As the population of Fort Myers grew, he and his wife became the subjects of increasing racism and deep prejudice for being biracial couple. So the couple eventually left the area, possibly heading to the Caribbean, but his children stayed. Some of his descendants have given interviews to the Black History Society. In those days, Safety Hill was the name given to what is now Dunbar. It was so named either and or because it was perceived to have an elevation safer from floods. It was also the segregated location where people of color needed to be after dark. Specifically, there was an 8 p.m. curfew in order for them to avoid potential violence and intimidation from nearby white residents. Understanding this history raises our awareness to the still present racial apparent in the residual realities of this neighborhood. In 1946, Safety Hill changed its name and became Dunbar. Why Dunbar, I wanted to know. Paul Lawrence Dunbar was born in Ohio on June 27th of 1872 as the son of slaves from Kentucky. The community took pride in adopting his name because he was one of the first American writers to establish an international reputation. He wrote over 400 poems as well as short stories and novels. Paul began writing when he was a child and published his first poems at the age of 16. Much of his work was written in what was termed the Negro dialect, which was associated with antebellum South. His poem, entitled Sympathy, uses the line, "I know why the caged bird sings." That verse became the title of the memoir of another beloved, renowned black poet, author, civil rights activist, and film director named Maya Angelou. Maya's memoir explores themes of economic, racial, and sexual oppression. I'd like to read Dunbar's poem entitled Sympathy for you now. know what the caged bird feels, alas, when the sun is bright on the upland slopes, when the wind stirs soft through the springing grass, and the river flows like a stream of glass, when the first bird sings and the first bud opes, and the faint perfume from its chalice steals, I know what the caged bird feels. I know why the caged bird beats his wing till its blood is red on the cruel bars, for he must fly back to his perch and cling, when he fain would be on the bough a swing. And a pain still throbs in the old scars, and they pulse again with a keener sting. I know why he beats his wing. I know why the caged bird sings, ah me, when his wing is bruised and his bosom sore, when he beats his bars and he would be free. It is not a carol of joy or glee, but a prayer that he sends from his heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven he flings. I know why the caged bird sings. Another powerful poem of Dunbar's is called We Wear the Mask. Written in 1895, it explores the act of hiding one's true emotions behind a facade, one which for blacks has often been necessary for survival, especially during the Jim Crow era. I've asked Lewis to read this for us. Lewis, Dr. Robinson, is a retired physician, my mentor, and the Racial Equality Co-Chair. Would you come up, Lewis?
Hello, I'm Lewis Robinson. Thank you very much. I have on my Juneteenth shirt. I bought it to support the History Society. I don't know if I'll wear it again. I have some special feelings, and I don't know if Juneteenth really should be a celebration or it should be really a reflection, a period of real reverence, because I could think about what slaves felt at that moment. A period when it must have been equal to closure, and then the prospects of violence. I guess it must be like the song said, I feel like I'm almost gone. Almost gone. Paul Lawrence Dunbar, We Wear the Mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be over-wise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries, to thee for tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask.
Thank you, Louis. Today, within the neighborhood of Dunbar, we find the Roberto Clemente Park, Clemente was a black Puerto Rican Major League Baseball player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He died in 1972. Dunbar's Clemente Park is also home to the Williams Academy Black History Museum. The Williams Academy, built in 1913, was the first government-funded school for African American students. The museum is housed in the 1942 built addition to the original school building and is located on Martin Luther King Boulevard. It is also home to the Black History Society, founded there in 1994. It is hard to imagine that it was not until 1953, with Brown versus the Board of Education, that segregation was outlawed in public schools. The Black History Museum is across the street from Dunbar's Quality Life Center of Southwest Florida. The racial equity team here at All Faiths is directing its energies to creating a strong, valuable connection with the center, which serves at-risk children ages 5 to 18 years, and their parents, who reside primarily in Dunbar. The center's mission is to provide arts, character, education, leadership, culture, mental wellness, entrepreneurship, and business programs. It is our team's hope that through honest, open, cross-racial dialogue with respect and diplomacy, we can build trust. This trust, it is hoped, will provide a path for action. Members of a beloved community of compassion can further demonstrate All Faiths' commitment to racial equality and social justice. We all need to recognize that at-risk children face a higher likelihood of experiencing negative outcomes due to personal, environmental, and relational factors. These factors can jeopardize their abilities to thrive, succeed academically, and mature successfully into adulthood. They are individuals whose circumstances make them more vulnerable to the challenges of poverty, abuse, neglect, or educational difficulties. The actions of our dedicated congregation at All Faiths can offer support by becoming involved with programs which provide volunteers for tutoring, mentoring, social and emotional support. We have the pleasure of having two guests here this morning from the Quality Life Center. I'd like to introduce you, if you both would stand. We have Julian Ramirez, the Executive Director, and his wonderful assistant, Shannon Safian. Thank you for coming, and thank you for all you do. We see you as mentors and role models. Recently, some of us from All Faiths attended an event at the Alliance for the Arts in Fort Myers, where we viewed a film entitled Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom. The film was followed by an excellent cross-racial dialogue and discussion. This film is a must-see for those who have made a commitment to become educated to the societal ills of systemic racism, white supremacy, white fragility, and critical race theory, so that history never repeats itself. I discovered that this film is available on YouTube, and Louis and I will follow up in an effort to show the film here sometime in the foreseeable future and engage those who come in a discussion afterwards. On the drive home from that movie at Alliance, my mind kept repeating, man's inhumanity to man. Man's inhumanity to man. Before I close, I'd like to share two short stanzas from the reading called The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. She presented her work at President Biden's inauguration on January 20th, 2021. She's a young black activist working for the environment, racial justice, and gender equality. Here we go. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become our burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy. and change our children's birthright. Another one. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light if we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Thank you for being here and listening. Please consider becoming a member of our racial equity team. We meet here at All Faiths on the second Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m., and our next meeting will be June 24th. Thank you.
Yes.
Outside July 20th.
Yes, she meant July. Thank you so very much for sharing with us. I learned some history about a small area just down the road from us. I don't know how many of you were aware of the deep history of the Dunbar community, but I can tell you this, if it was 1867 when Tillis settled here, that was only 2 years after Juneteenth, y'all. 2 years after Juneteenth, he made his way to Florida and settled on 100 acres. That was a start. But we know what happened after that, Jim Crow and all of that, and if there's any way we can snatch something from you, that's what happened. It's unfortunate, but it's the legacy of this country, and we need to stop acting like it is not. Anyway, I'm just going to share really briefly here some things that may lift us a little bit, because when we talk about things such as Juneteenth and what happened to African Americans in this country, it can often become a heavy, even to African Americans. We know this, we walk around with it all the time. It never leaves us. We are completely aware of what has happened to us, our history, our generations, our family. We do not need to be taught, because we already know. But what we want to do is let others know, because this is the only way that we will be able to come to terms. Otherwise, half of us, or a large majority of us, are walking around completely blind to the ills that continue to affect people in this country that we share. So today I'm just going to make it a little happier some way, because I want to take you to the park. What is this talking? Today we find ourselves in between two important events. They are similar and deeply related. They're stories of freedom. This Friday, because we are now wondering, wait a minute, the 4th of July, what are we talking about Juneteenth? Well, yes, this Friday, the 4th of July, will be the 249th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and America will celebrate her birthday. Independence from Great Britain and King George III of England. The colonists achieved independence from 13 British colonies and became simply known as the 13 colonies, thus forming the United States of America. This all started back in 1606 when King James I of England granted charters to the Plymouth Company and London Company to establish permanent settlements here in America. 1 year later, the London Company did it. The colony of Virginia, the first permanently settled English colony on the continent. Now, 15 days ago, people who have also been instrumental in the growth, stability, and financial wealth of the United States also looked over their shoulders to remember, to mourn, and celebrate independence, sort of a new birth, a rebirth, a new happening. Here's their story of independence. I'm going to go to the 1619 Project from the New York Times. The first of these people arrived August 1619, 12 years after the first colony was established. 12 years. A ship appeared on the horizon near Point Comfort, a coastal port in the colony of Virginia that carried more than 20 enslaved Africans who were sold to the colonists. They arrived at the first of the colonies in Virginia 157 years before the Declaration of Independence from English rule.
That was 406 years ago. Never, ever let people tell you that African Americans and their children did not establish this country. 406 years. How many years after? Just 12. After the colonists came. After King George sent them over here. Just 12 years. After that, it was on our backs, and we did it. We had to. 15 days ago, the federal holiday that honors 160 years of freedom and emancipation of those people, my people, a holiday called Juneteenth was celebrated, and that was on June 19th. So briefly, I want to talk about these two holidays using a seesaw as a metaphor. I told you I'll make it easy because it's a heavy subject. Everybody knows what a seesaw is. Some of us call it a teeter-totter. Remember playing in the park when you were young, just running about? There would most often be swings, sliding boards, monkey bars, and the seesaw. Remember how the park can cost this gigantic, you would hit that park or that playground and all of your hurts would immediately be abandoned. Nothing could bother you. The joy of just running around, swinging, sliding, climbing, hanging on the monkey bars. And of course, that seesaw, the teeter-totter. That was a strange thing that somehow would balance two or more, no matter the difference in size or weight, if you knew how to play on it right. It's a remarkable toy. So I thought, I used to love that seesaw. Let me find out a little bit more about it. After a little research, I found that the seesaw is a sophisticated instrument. It relies on science, mathematics, and for you great thinkers out there, physics. Not that I knew all of this. I looked it up. According to OWN Playground.com, a teeter-totter or seesaw works on the principle of a lever. It's essentially a long board balanced on a central pivot point that is called the fulcrum. And when one end goes up, the other goes down, creating that familiar back and forth. But here's the physics behind it. The child sitting on one end applies force by pushing off the ground. That force creates torque. It's like a little rotation force around the fulcrum. And the further from the center the child sits, the more torque they generate, which helps to lift the other side. Here's your physics. So I know you get it. Finding balance is the key. There must be a relationship on both ends. If both children are about the same weight and sit at equal distances from the center, the teeter-totter moves very nice and smoothly, up, down, up, down. But if not, the heavier child might stay grounded unless the lighter one shifts further out to compensate. So again, it takes two. So using this beloved children's toy as a metaphor for balance through its lens, we just went over how the seesaw of history, the civil rights and decolonization, became not just struggles for freedom, but instead movements to reimagine a new relational life. So let's see if I can put this together with a seesaw. Dr. Pam Staples explains the concept of relational life as an approach to life where we have more to think about than our material needs and desires, and where the health of our soul increases with loving ourselves and other people. So to explore relational life, we'll use the seesaw or teeter-totter as our metaphor and examine the struggles. These are the struggles. We struggle for justice. We struggle for independence. We struggle for freedom and emancipation. Both. 4th of July, struggle for that. Juneteenth, struggle for that. All of these, again, justice, independence, freedom, and emancipation, closely related but not identical. But without all of them, no person, place, or thing, including nations, are free. We instead become hindered and create difficulties. We do it. Often that results in delays and obstructions. But today, this is a time of celebration. So I'm going to get back to the playground. I don't want to make it easy. And we're going to ride the teeter-totter of freedom. And the quiet rhythms of a playground. Just go with me here. A teeter-totter walks back and forth. Two children rising and falling in turn. At first glance, it seems like a simple little mechanism. A board, a fulcrum, and 2 riders. But this humble little toy offers more than childlike delight, I want to tell you. It will capture something essential about freedom and how it is experienced, how emancipation is enacted, and how justice is continually negotiated. For me, it's a dynamic balance. The seesaw becomes not just a metaphor for motion, but more of a parable of relational ethics, where true liberation is never solitary, and justice is measured not by fixed outcomes, but by the harmony of interdependence. You know the song, lean on me, I lean on you, you lean on me. Interdependence. If you move, I fall. If I move, you fall. So we have to depend on each other, just like the seesaw. You see, that seesaw cannot move if it is bolted to the ground, if weight is unfairly distributed, or if one side refuses to yield. Emancipation, then, is an unpinning, an unplugging. The historical moment, a psychological shift that breaks the stillness that is imposed by domination. You got to pull it away. Whether it's abolition of slavery, the end of colonial rule, or the liberation of the South from internalized oppression, emancipation marks the beginning of the motion. You understand? Without that emancipation, there's no movement, there's no freedom, there's no justice, there is no independence. It's the emancipation that will unlock the possibility of any engagement, not only upward motion, but also that back and forth that will characterize how we as a people relate to one another. It's relational. A seesaw makes us relational. I can't play this toy. I can't have the fun on it, not unless I'm playing with you, and we have to balance each other. Your emancipation. Now, to sit on the seesaw alone is to experience independence. And a lot of people go, no, I'm all about independence. Yes, Independence Day, yeah. That makes you all by yourself. You're all alone. The absence of control by another. That's what we would think independence is. But this is often celebrated as the pinnacle of liberation. People think that independence is liberation. Self-rule, self-determination, self-reliance. But independence, as the lone rider quickly discovers, that is static and stagnant. There is really no movement. Without another to shift the balance, the seesaw remains grounded. Independence may remove the weight of oppression, but it does not guarantee mobility. And without that, you're still static. You're still stuck. In this sense, it is a necessary but insufficient condition for freedom. So we got emancipation. We got independence. But we're still not there yet. You see, freedom, my friends, emerges in the motion, in the cooperative rhythm between the riders. It is not only the absence of constraint, but the presence of relationship. You see it when you're playing on the toy. You witness it when you watch the kids doing it. Each ascent requires trust, timing, and the willingness to yield. In movements like the United States civil rights struggle or post-colonial reconstruction, freedom became more than a legal status. It became a lived experience of coordination, of conflict, and shared risk. As Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned, freedom was not isolation, but the beloved community, a social choreography where justice rises through recognition and reciprocity. I see you right on the other side of my seesaw. How can we make it justified? Well, the ride is not over. We must learn to balance that seesaw. We want to justify it, right? Because the balance is to justify. Justice, in this metaphor, is not frozen. It's not a state of just equality, but it's ethical equilibrium. We are both doing this. We find that perfect little balance. The continual adjustment of social, economic, and political weight so that no one is forever grounded. We must find that balance, or we'll find some that are left behind. In civil rights activism, justice meant reconfiguring systems that had long tilted the board. In decolonization, it required more than simple sovereignty from England. It demanded redistribution, reparative dialogue, and reconstruction of a shared worldview. Sounds similar, huh? It is no longer about the king. We must understand without recalibrating the terms of relationships, liberation was incomplete. As we relate to one another, we must learn to ride the seesaw. The seesaw absolutely insists that we rise and fall together. It refuses the illusion that one can ascend without affecting or being affected by the other. So in this way, it moves towards a much deeper freedom, one that does not end in a personal autonomy, but one that opens in co-liberation. Emancipation makes motion possible. Independence grants the power to choose. But justice, that delicate and continuous act of balancing, is what makes the ride fair. In the end, the seesaw teaches us that freedom is not simply about standing up, it's about learning to lift and be lifted again and again, in concert with all of those around us. My friends, the playground is a space where we learn, and our children learn many lessons. And most importantly, we all learn that the art of playing with and being with others requires interdependence. We play together. Family, we will always need each other, no matter how great or small we become. This garden we call Earth is our shared home. We play here. We live here. We have our being right here. I invite you now to remember those days of easy give and take and the joy of playing together. Remember that seesaw. Turn off the phone. Family, my friends, justice and peace is not when everyone agrees. It's when we can respect our disagreements and still play on the seesaw together. I believe, as a matter of fact, I know we adults can learn to play together again and ride the seesaw of life. I think it'll be fun. Happy belated Juneteenth and happy 4th of July. Amen and ashe.
If you'd like to hum along.
So it's time for the offering. But I have a joke. Because laughter makes us more generous. Why are there no knock-knock jokes about America? Because freedom rings. Happy Independence Day to my fellow Americans. We appreciate your generous donations which support our dedicated staff, beautiful facilities, inspiring services, interesting activities, and social justice outreach at Allface. We invite our visitor to put her completed visitor card in the offertory basket. Live streamers, please mail checks or visit our website, allfaceuu.org. Our offering will now be taken and gratefully received.
We got a good thing, babe. Wherever life is hard, we never lose one way, 'cause we both know who we are. Who is about tomorrow? We don't know what's in the stars. I just know I'll always follow the light in your heart. I'm not worried about us, and I've never been. We know how the story ends. We will never break. We will never break. Built on our foundation, strong enough to stand. We will never break. As the water rises and the mountains shake, our love will remain. We will never, no, never. We will never, no, never. It's more than a good sensation, more than the passing flame. You are the explanation of what love really means. It's greater than you and me. It's 1 and 1 plus 3. We talk about forever. That's forever what we mean. So I'm not worried about us, and I've never been. No matter what may come our way, we will never break. We will never break. Built on our foundation, strong enough to pay. We will never break. As the water rises and the mountains shake, our love will remain. We will never. The world is dangerous. Throw it all at us. There's nothing we cannot take. We will never end. We will never break. Built on a foundation stronger than the pain. We will never break. As the water rises and the mountains shake, our love will remain. We will never break. We will never break.
Thank you, Carlos. That was absolutely beautiful. You sang it so nice. We must never break from doing what is right. We must never break from love. We must remember that that is the glue that holds us all together. Don't break it. Don't pull it apart. Play on the seesaw. Let life be joyful. Yeah, remember, it wasn't always so hard. Our closing words. We shall indeed overcome. These are the words by John Lou Johnston. We shall overcome. When we can truly celebrate the diversity of contributions and talents offered by all people, we shall overcome hatred and prejudice and oppression. When we can truly extend our hands to one another in loving acceptance, we shall overcome the past that haunts us even now. Living in peace and freedom, we shall overcome the wrongs that have happened and the deaths left behind. Let us join together in that commitment this day to overcome. So let us say it together. Amen.
Amen.
And Ashe. Amen.
We're going to have a little fun with our closing song, and I have your tambourine over here. So here's your tambourine for the song.
Get me ready for a song, and he gave me a cute note. And let me just see. Well, yesterday we had a 100th birthday party for Joanne Gilyard's husband. He turned 100. We had a big party right back there, and it was beautiful. Happy birthday, Bob. Happy birthday.
Before we get started, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, I'm done.
Okay, before we get started, I guess there's something I do want to say. To all of you who marched in the past and demonstrated and protested in the past, I'm sorry. I really am sorry that bad history is starting to repeat itself and you all have to do this again. Many of you really sacrificed and did everything to make sure that civil rights and voting rights and women's rights, and we were all equal. And it feels like we're going backwards, and it's wrong. When I do the protesting and everything, one thing I always hear from some of the people out there, that we didn't know that we would have to do this again. So Dr. Lewis and many of you, I don't know what you're feeling because I was born in '69, but I kind of do know what you're feeling. So all I can say is help us and don't give up and, you know, just keep on doing this. Yeah. All right, without further ado.
Please rise and have fun with the song, number 153, Oh, I Woke Up This Morning.
This morning with my mind, it was stayed on freedom. I was woke up this morning with my mind, it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 Now I ask my friend Ruth to come forward as we extinguish the chalice. But first, Ruth, I want to thank our minister, Alberita Johnson, Susan Snow, and Dr. Lewis Robinson for their inspiring reflections today. Our soloist, Dr. Vanessa Gilyard, and our director of music, Carlos Garcia, and those who contributed to our services. Please recite the words in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please join us for coffee and cookie and ice cream and conversation in our social hall. Thank you.